I approve this message.
One word?
Anxious.
Anxious. Yeah.
Because we see what this president is currently doing. We've got 170,000 Americans dead because of COVID. There's this lack of trust.
This country is starving for good leadership right now.
Big thing that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can do is just rebuild trust.
I'm not going to agree with everything that anyone says. My wife will tell you that from the beginning. But who do I trust my children's future to? I trust Joe Biden more than anyone else.
Welcome to this Biden-Harris campaign event. Black Men for Biden, Shop Talk, Georgia National. Please welcome Trey Baker.
Thanks so much, and everybody, welcome to what's going to be our final edition of Shop Talk. Throughout this series of conversations, we've been talking to Black men about what's going on in our communities, what struggles people are having, what impediments folks are seeing, especially during COVID-19, and then how to get over that, and then ultimately why a Biden-Harris administration is going to be best for the Black community and specifically best for Black men. So these are the conversations that we would have been having all over the country in barbershops in your neighborhoods. However, because of COVID-19 and ultimately the mismanagement of COVID-19 from Donald Trump, the disease has lingered and gone on, and so we're still in a virtual world. But that's all right, because we're going to have these conversations, and we're going to continue to push, and we're going to continue to do the things necessary to make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the next president and vice president of the United States. And so for these conversations, we'll just be talking through, having a casual conversations as if we were in the shop. So we have a wonderful event for you tonight, featuring the legendary Spike Lee. And so with no further ado, I'll come back to you at the end and talk to you about how you can get involved and some things you can do afterwards, because ultimately we have these conversations, but all of this needs to lead to action. All of this needs to lead to you phone banking. All of this needs to lead to you doing something for GOTV. It's action time now. So with all of that said, I'll turn you over to our host for the evening, a brother who you know from being an on-air personality, being a policy wonk, quite frankly, and being very concerned about those things happening with Black men and Black business, and now the host of his own show on Sirius XM. So I'll turn you over to my brother, Mike Muse.
Thanks, Noob. What's happening, America? It's your boy, Mike Muse. I am excited to be here again for another edition of our Shop Talk. This is the close. This is the finale. We're coming off right now the World Series win. Shout out to the LA Dodgers. Although I'm based in New York, I still have an affinity for the LA Dodgers too as well. I'm sure Spike Lee may have some other words for that, but nonetheless, I digress. But the reason why I brought up baseball is because you always think about the closer. Right, the closer in baseball is clutch. It's the key to save the game or to win the game, or however you want to use a metaphor and analogy. But this is our close. This is our closing argument. This is the closing argument for the Biden-Harris campaign, that this is no longer about trying to convince on policies and issues. This is, well, what's at stake? This is about what is impacting Black men, particularly. Those who know me and know me well, you know I stand proud and I advocate strong for Black men. As you know, it's not easy to advocate for Black men because for some reason that seems to be the third rail, right? But we are in the moment right now, and I have always done my best through advocacy to center Black men in this political discourse, to center Black men in conversation. I couldn't think of three better gentlemen to help me be the closers for the closing argument for what we have in store come next Tuesday, if the vote does not go the way Biden and Harris goes. And so I want to do a deep dive into what does that look like? What is the argument left to be had, and how should we be looking at it from a nuanced perspective? But first, I want to thank our media partner, The Black Man Can, for rocking with us today, for being a great media partner. So we salute you. We say thank you. And listen, I have the complete honor to introduce a man who really doesn't need any introductions, but I just want him to know from a personal perspective, Mr. Spike Lee, that you are literally my favorite film director. I don't even say one of my favorite film directors. I say you are the film director for me. I often do case studies about the social constructs of your films and your properties. One thing I always, as the benchmark for what is priceless and timeless and what is excellence, is if someone's property, if someone's creativity, if someone's assets can withstand over time. And my brother, your movies have the themes on your movies are still prevalent to this day. And I will actually add a caveat and say, unfortunately, but it shows that you were tapped into something way before social media, way before tweets and hashtags and social conversations that we're having right now on Zoom. You knew there was something there that had to amplify it. And you stood boldly and proud to advocate and to center Black men in your films, also to behind the scenes and what you have implored economically for those behind the scenes, which is so incredibly important for us. And I just got to say, my favorite film of all time, sir, is School Day. So as two captains on this call right now, me and Trey, we thank you for making that movie. Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible Mr. Spike Lee. Take it away, Spike.
Well, Mike, thank you for that. And, you know, you talk about films relevant today. I wrote Do the Right Thing in 1988. We shot it 89. And no one that's conscious could look at that film and see the NYPD have our brother Ray Rahim in that chokehold. And I think about Eric Gardner or George Floyd. And my friends call me Nico Damas. So I've been very fortunate to do what I love. And that's tell stories. And a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them deal with the African-American experience in the United States, in America. And we're on the edge of a cliff now, I think. I want to say, you talk about, Mike, you started out, you talking about the great relievers. The greatest reliever ever is Mariano, and he's with Agent Orange. So I really guess. One of my favorite Yankees.
Yeah.
Mariano
Rivera. Yeah.
Yeah. He's behind Agent Orange all the way. So what I gonna do? But I'm just glad to be with everybody here. Got a special relationship with my brother Hill Harper. We've done 2 films together. And we gotta talk. I keep hearing this chatter from Black men about what Joe Biden has done, what he hasn't done. I don't think that whatever it is, what they feel that way, it does not add up to what the alternative is. And this guy, Agent Orange I'm talking about. In fact, I got to give credit to Busta Rhymes. He's the one that came with that nickname, Agent Orange. It wasn't me. I just use it. He gave me permission. For him to say he's done more for Black folks than any other president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. And then, what's his son-in-law's name?
Jared Kushner.
Yeah, that punk ass saying that we have to want success. I mean, I don't understand that. Yeah, we want success, but thing called slavery. 1619, where ancestors landed Jamestown, Virginia. So we want a lot of things, but there's been opposition to stop us what we deserve. I mean, how can we do everything we want to do when we're considered 3/5 of a human being? 3/5. Where laws and whatnot are systematically used to prohibit us for achieving what we want. So we're in a very critical point in this country. And I just pray to God that justice wins. there's righteousness wins. And I don't think we're going to know exactly on, a certain time on November 3rd. I mean, a lot of states, they can't start counting votes until it's closed. So I've just got my fingers, toes crossed, and pray to God that we get delivered for the soul of the United States of America.
Spike, I know that we are physically not in a barber shop. I've done all these type of town halls for any kind of platform, network, you name it. But there is something about the tone and how you're level setting today that makes me feel like I am with all of us together in a room, in a shop. It is this moment of, it's almost kind of eerie in an interesting way, not in a negative way. I just see Michael Smith looking at you. I see Harper looking at you, and I see it just being still. And it reminds me of being in the shop when that the unofficial mayor of the block walks into the shop and he gets immediate deference, right? Like he gets that chance to get in the chair first, or the shop, all of a sudden the eyes turn to what that brother, the unofficial mayor of the shop, is saying. And
The
that
mayor,
was you
Ozzie
in this
Davis,
moment.
do the right thing.
Exactly. The mayor. So you get,
Yeah, right.
Spike, I'm telling you, I got you. I'm trying not to use all your movie analogies, man, but that's what
Harry
right
Belafonte in Black Klansman.
Literally in Black Klansman. Like that is that moment, right? Like that is this moment of deference and hearing you talk. And because Spike, because you're Nico Damas, as they call you,
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it, right? But to foreshadow kind of what is happening. But before we go there, I just want to level set something real quick, just to get the substance and policy out of the way before we get into our pontification and opining on things. You brought up Jared Kushner. I just want to dispel some of the things that the Trump administration said they've done for Black people in the Black community, and particularly you, Spike, coming from an HBCU. Morehouse is your alma mater. School Days is my favorite film of yours. When it comes to HBCU, Trump and Kushner love to talk about the things they've done for HBCUs. They don't put that into context. The context is that the federal government supports HBCUs that are public funded. Because the numbers of HBCU applicants have gone out, shout out to Beyonce and Coachella and Homecoming, there's more of an interest in individuals going to HBCUs. Therefore, the enrollment has gone up into HBCUs. Therefore, if you add 1 + 1, the budget expands. So it's because of numbers that's how it works out. Jared Kushner, I'm talking to you. When it comes to opportunity zones that you love to talk about so much and your father-in-law loves to talk about so much, you guys are real estate developers. Opportunity zones has more of a positive impact on real estate developers. And I'm going to go out on the limb and say they're not majority Black and browns. Yes, you guys are making money off of communities that are Black and brown, but the Black and brown individuals are not being able to monetize off of the opportunity zones that you say that you stand for Black individuals. And don't even get me started with criminal reform and criminal justice on how the fact that the Obama-Biden administration had over 32,000 federal inmates that was released from prison and over 1,000 clemencies that was done. So this is level set. Let's get that out of the way. Now we can just have a conversation about what's at stake. Spike, before I bring Hill Harper into the conversation and Michael Smith into the conversation, I just want to know for you, as the mayor in the barbershop right now, what does it do to you and your soul knowing that you made movies about this and do the right thing, right? Unfortunately, you see the George Floyds are happening right now. What does it do to you personally, right? We hear about these narratives from a policy perspective. We hear about these narratives from other individuals, but I'm curious as someone like yourself, like how does that sit with you and your soul in order to communicate what's at stake if Black men do not show up and go to the polls on Tuesday?
Well, it'll be sad. It'll be very sad because they went for the okie doke. They went for the okie doke. And, Massa, we sick. This ain't new. Massa, we sick. So not as many of those handkerchief heads with this as it was back in the day. But we got to go what we got. You got to go what we got and move forward and understand that the struggle still continues. And our ancestors you know, they went through holy hell. So that they and nothing. And anytime I'll close on this because I know we gotta share it, share the love. But anytime I'm in the gym and things are going wrong, I think about my ancestors and the holy hell they went through. Work from can't see in the morning, can't see at night. Like a total alert, and then snap of a finger, you could be lynched, castrated, burnt. So whatever I'm going through is nothing compared to what our ancestors went through. And that gives me strength.
Yeah, that's amazing, Spike. I want to go to Hill Harper just for a couple of reasons, but one, he's sitting outside in his car and I'm nervous his Wi-Fi might go out on us. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how much Hill Harper recognizes what's at stake, that he's willing to pull over and give some moments with us right now. Hill, you are an acclaimed actor. I salute you, brother, for you and your son. I salute the journey that you have been on. I also too salute the advocacy that you have for Black men, in particular to the books that you've written. A letter to my son, Hill. Is that did I get the name
Letters
right?
to a young brother. Letters to a young brother.
Letters to a young brother. So your heart is already constituted towards Black men. I've already got the policies out of the way. Talk to us about your narrative, about what's at stake as a Black man, as a Black actor who has to deal with incredible biases that exist in Hollywood, as a Black man who also too is a father, and as a Black man who often advocates for these issues. Talk to us about your thoughts as we close out this campaign season. And at this point, just what are you feeling and what do you want to communicate?
Well, first of all, Spike, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Spike mentioned the legend, Ossie Davis. And Spike has done a number of things for me in my career. But one of the greatest gifts he gave me was, number one, hiring me for my first film, which is called Get on the Bus. And number two, make that character throughout the entire film on the bus next to Ossie Davis. And what the gift that I was given in that situation was that, Spike wanted everybody on the bus when you're shooting, whether you're in the scene or not, because you could see all the way down the bus. So for weeks on end, I sat next to Ossie Davis and he would tell me stories about having Malcolm X over for dinner. He'd tell me stories about Godfrey Cambridge ripping a taxi door off one night after rehearsal because the taxi cab wouldn't stop for a Black man. He would tell me how if you're an artist and a Black man, that it's incumbent upon you to be like Paul Robeson or himself or Harry Belafonte, and not just play roles, but step out and use whatever platform you have. And I'm not trying to liken myself to Harry Belafonte or Ossie Davis or Paul Robeson. Let's be clear. Those are legends and they have much bigger platforms than I have. But the point is that we all have a role to play, whether you're the brother in the barbershop, whether you're the brother in the movie, whether you're on ESPN and you talking about sports, whether you are a political leader, whatever. The point is we have a role to play. And in this election, when we talk about voting, I hear some young brothers telling me, and it upsets me a great deal. Say, man, I'm just not gonna vote. And they're like, I won't vote for Trump. But what I try to explain to these young brothers is that no matter if you're young or old or whoever, if you don't vote and you're eligible to vote, you're actually voting. There's no such thing as not voting. You're voting for the incumbent every election, whether it's this election or another. If you don't vote, you're voting for the incumbent. Incumbents win when there's low turnout. Incumbents lose when there's high turnout. There's change. And so to act like if you have an eligible ballot and you don't fill it out, you're actually voting no matter what. So it's nonsense for brothers to step up and say, yo, Doug, you know what? I'm not really with them, and I'm definitely not with him. So I'm just going to sit this out because I can't really. No, brother. If you are not voting and you have an eligible vote to cast, you're actually voting for that one you don't like. You're voting for Trump. You're voting for the incumbent. And it's all the way down the ballot. That's why I don't want to get too hung up just on top of the ticket. Because at the end of the day, in our communities, I know this is a Biden-Harris thing, but in our communities, it's the local officials that impact our lives on a daily basis. Your DA, your school board, they impact your life on a daily, and you don't want to have a say in who those people are? Come on, man. And we have to. And I appreciate Michael Smith, and I appreciate Spike. And even though y'all are Kappas, I'm sorry that you are, because you weren't first, and you weren't the best. And Dr. King was an alpha. Let's be very clear.
And where did Dr. King go to school?
Dr. King went to grad school in Boston. He went to Morehouse.
The house.
Yes, he did.
The house.
But he went to grad school in Boston, where I went to grad school. Come on, it's the same city, not the same.
I ain't had nothing to do with no Boston, nothing.
Spike, I've been on your side this whole time, man. You could just stay neutral on this one, Spike. You know what I mean? I've been holding you down all day. You couldn't stay neutral on this one.
If you bring up Boston, I cannot be neutral.
Hey, no. But hey, Spike, the Omegas are giving away a lot of honorary degrees to celebrities these days. You may be able to pick one up.
Now, that is a fact. Now, that's one thing, Hill, you and I can't agree on. They love some honorary degrees. I definitely will say that. But I will say this, Hill Harper, you guys definitely were first, but as Trey and I always acknowledge, you guys just a rough draft. You need that red pen to strike through the words to make a better version of that. Spike can appreciate that. It's called script writing. That's called script writing.
As a Kappa, I got respect. My father was a Kappa, I got respect. Y'all can twirl a cane really well.
Right. Y'all still have pages of the cutting room. And Spike knows that language. You know what I mean? We cut y'all the pages of the cutting room. But it's okay. I digress. I digress. Michael Smith, welcome to the conversation.
We got to vote. That's what we got to do is vote.
You say y'all can twirl a cane. Oh, man.
We are good with that, though. Michael Smith, welcome to the conversation, my brother. It is so good to have you here. What I love is that we've had such a sports-dominated kind of conversation thus far. And I mean, nobody knows sports better than you. I mean, from ESPN to the Peacock Network to your new show, host of A Brother from Another. I need your agent on my phone ASAP because, brother, you get jobs. Okay, that is amazing in this space. So one congratulations to you. We'll make sure we save some time at the end of this town hall for individuals to learn a little bit how they can find out about that programming and to learn about your show. But for me, sports is the muse of my work, right? For me, sports is the biggest aggregate of conversation. Sports is the one that propels social conversation and social discourse. And I'm not here to debate who's the GOAT. We're not here for that. I mean, we can get into that much later in the after call. But I'm thinking about right now, like even LeBron James and what he's done for his advocacy off the court and how he's willing to take a chance, right? And to be the first. It seems more acceptable now, but when he did a couple of years ago, it wasn't the thing. From your vantage point, Michael Smith, Black men, we love sports. That's all we talk about in the barbershop, right? Talk to us about what for you you're seeing, what's at stake, and for Black men, and to even get us to kind of understand how the athletes we admire have now taken the position within politics.
Yeah, well, first of all, I can't thank y'all enough for having me be a part of this. I was enjoying the back and forth. I'm me, but I was enjoying the trash talk there. So that was fun. Spike, has been a long time. It's so good to see you again. Yeah. Hill, has been a long time since you and I crossed paths. So much love and respect for y'all. I'd be remiss if I didn't just tell y'all how much y'all mean to me. Y'all working hard. Thank you. I feel like, I was born in 1979. I'm 41.
I'm
so
63.
I'm too young. I'm too young to have watched Muhammad Ali in his heyday. I'm too young to have watched Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Hank Aaron and Tommy Smith and John Carlos. Like that's before my time. And so it's really been a privilege for me these last handful of years. And there were others in between. But we're really at a golden age, if you will, of athlete activism. We know what Colin Kaepernick sacrificed. We see what LeBron James and others are doing to not just draw attention and awareness to issues, but to activate not only their peers, but also inspire the youth, because we know, youth, they look up to athletes and entertainers as much as anybody. And when you see athletes engaged like that, it popularizes and it energizes young people. Oh, well, LeBron says it's cool to vote. All right, LeBron could get my son to do stuff right now that I can't. I'm putting food on his table. So it's powerful, man. It's powerful to see them take the lead. I read that 90% of NFL players are registered to vote. Pretty much the entire NBA is registered to vote. And if I could just piggyback off of what Brother Spike and Hill was saying, and we've all said is, to use a sports metaphor, we just can't afford to be on the sideline in this. This is not normal. It's not a normal time we're living in right now. Maybe once upon a time, as Black people and Black men in particular, we could say, even if it's factually incorrect, but we could maybe have a conversation, maybe, about how indistinguishable the parties were from each other as it relates to Black people. This is not that time. Like, there is no choice here as far as I'm concerned. There is no legitimate choice. There's no debate. There is no discussion. There is no, well, yeah, but, and even as Hill pointed out, and I've heard that too, I'm just not gonna vote for either one. No, you literally cannot afford to not cast your vote for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and as Hill was pointing out, to vote down ballot, to somehow get a majority in the Senate, to vote in local elections. You cannot afford it. Donald Trump in 2016 asked Black people, what more do you have to lose? I don't know that everybody knew that he would literally try to take everything from us in the next 4 years. Because if he gets another 4 years, the answer is literally going to be nothing, because he will have taken everything. Like, we're literally dying on his watch. And if you want to simplify this entire conversation just to COVID, debate over, just to COVID. If we don't vote on this election, nothing will improve if we're literally dying day in and day out, because one candidate and one ticket not only has a plan, but at least takes this thing seriously. The other one keeps saying, it says every day we're rounding the corner. Dog, how long is this street? How long is this block? Like, ain't nobody rounding nobody's corner. We're going around in circles when it comes to this right now. And then they want to patronize us. Oh, we giving money to HBCUs, or I've done more for Black people. See, Agent Orange, Spike Lee, Agent Orange keeps showing his true colors, because they look at us as somehow we're begging for handouts, that we need something. We don't need anything from you. We don't need you to do anything for us. We can do for ourselves if you get out the way. But they trivialize and use cliches like, oh, we give money to HBCUs, criminal justice. Okay, so you're talking about all the criminal justice reform you supposedly done, Donald Trump, but won't acknowledge that there's a police brutality issue and that there's an incarceration issue. They just want to get cool points. You talk about all you've done for Black people. Well, why does anything need to be done, quote unquote, for Black people? Because of the very systemic racism you deny exists. So this is not even a contest, man. This shouldn't even be close. And I'm with you, Spike. I got everything crossed. I'm praying, and I feel good about the numbers and the turnout that we're seeing and the enthusiasm, because this should not be close. And last thing I'll say is we can't afford for it to be close, because they're doing everything possible to steal this thing, lie, steal, cheat, and contest this thing on the other side of it, if it's even in the realm of being close. And as Wild said before me, if our vote didn't matter, they wouldn't work so damn hard to take it from us. So it's an act of defiance and resistance to go out there and cast our vote on Tuesday.
Michael Smith, you said that brilliantly, and you really, I mean, that's the level of what's at stake. Gentlemen, I was recalling, someone sent me a video on WhatsApp today. They were showing this white man, part of this militia, and him shooting and practicing, and him getting ready, and him defining things as patriots. Patriots can come and use his gun if they don't have the gun, right? And so there is this new dynamic that is really turning the corner when it comes to that. One of me and Trey's frat brothers the other day on WhatsApp was talking to me about how there's no more guns available. Literally, he drove around upstate New York and the city of New York, and there is no guns even be purchased, and he's a licensed carrier. So that let you know there is something that is at stake, but we're not here to talk about that. But I just definitely, I will be remiss if I didn't bring that into this space right now as we begin to think about that, because Michael Smith, as you said, if there was a reason they're acting out like this. There's a reason why they don't want us to vote. There's a reason why they're suppressing us. There's a reason why these cases are going for the Supreme Court not to extend counting the ballots that appear after November 3rd. There's a reason why in Harris County, a county of 4.6 million people, that Texas only put one drop-off ballot in place and in position. They wouldn't go through all this trouble, Michael Smith, if they didn't know that our votes do matter and count, and there can be a change in the tide to restore, as Spike Lee, as you said earlier today, justice is on the line, right? They want injustice to happen. And speaking of Justice Hill, I want to go to you. I want you to double down actually on, and it's okay, brother, that you talked about the down ballot. Yes, we are here for the Biden-Harris campaign, but we all work together, right? Like once you go in, if you go in for the purposes of voting down the ballot to go up, whether you go in up to go down, it doesn't matter. Justice, as Spike Lee says, gets served. Just expound on why we should really be thinking about local offices. I know I created a nonprofit organization, Vote Quadrant, that focuses on the police chief, the mayor, the DA, and the judges to get people to understand it. Michael Smith just alluded to it. Talk to us about why you thought it was important to bring that into the space just now as you did.
Whatever issue that you're concerned about in your community, it's represented on the ballot, and it's represented particularly down the ballot. For instance, if you're somebody who's very concerned with police brutality, the number one thing you can do is to replace your DA and put an activist DA in, because at the end of the day, if your DA does not actually bring charges against small carry charges, and they don't charge those people, they stop charging, they just let police do paperwork and they charge them, and they start charging cops, you'll see behavior change, right? You'll see behavior change. Yet 80% of DAs who run for re-election run unopposed. And so we have to understand the power of these offices and how it trickles down into other places. There are elected chiefs of police, there are elected judges, there are elected sheriffs. And if you care about education and the babies in schools, there's your school board. If you care about budgets in your city and how they're allocated, there's your mayor, there's your city councils. There's so many roles that impact you on a daily basis. You know, I've been doing a lot of work in Flint, Michigan, because people there are suffering. They pay some of now listen to the craziness of this. They pay some of the highest water bills in the country for water that they don't feel.
Hill, I told y'all Hill's thing's gonna freeze up on me. That's why I was trying to go to Hill as much as I could.
How you're getting billed, etc. And to Spike's point, and you know, to use the sports analogy, this has to be a mandate. It has to be a blowout. If you want to beat the champion, you can't leave it in the hands of the judges, right? Nope. If you want to beat the incumbent, you can't leave it in the hand, because right now the Supreme Court is a 6-3 court. So if you keep it close and they have to decide about, the ballots received in Pennsylvania after November 3rd, are we going to count those? And it's within 10, 20, 30,000. Oh, we could throw out 30, 40, 50,000. They stole Michigan last time. They only won Michigan. You know, the current president, I don't like saying his name, only won Michigan. Agent Orange. He only won Michigan by 12,000 votes, but 60,000 votes in Wayne County were annulled. That's Detroit. 60,000 were annulled because you had, that's what I've spent most of the COVID in Detroit, in my house in Detroit. And I'll tell you what's going on. And to Michael's point, every other day during the height of the COVID pandemic, there was a funeral procession. Detroit, Flint, and all these cities with a lot of Black men who are older and perhaps a little bit overweight and had other challenges, we got crushed. And at the same time, your man Agent Orange is downplaying the severity of this sickness. So there's so many reasons to vote.
Can I use another sports analogy real quick?
Yes, please.
And brothers, you know what I'm talking about? The Boston Celtics, the Lakers, Bird, McHale, Parrish, Magic, Kareem. They knew. In the Boston Garden, not the TD, where that thing. I'm talking about the old Boston Garden. They knew that if the game was close, they were not getting the call. Am I right or wrong?
That's it.
You're right.
So they said, we can't
gotta blow them out.
Game close.
Gotta blow them out
because The refs, you're in a Boston Garden, and you're not going to get a call.
Yeah.
So let's use that analogy. We're in the Boston Garden. Back in the day, we know this rigged.
Yep.
It has to be a blowout. Or you can't 1 point, 2 point game. No, because it might come down to a call. And you know which way it's gonna go. We can't have that. Can't have that.
You're absolutely right, Spike, that we can't have that. You being animated about that, brother, just made my day. Because that how you're feeling is how so many of us are feeling, right? As we're moving about our day, as we're having this conversation, as we get closer to it. Hill Harper, stay following in my footsteps. I am born and raised in Michigan, right? So I must shout out to Michigan. I got to say to Detroit, what up, though? That is the terminology that we use to be there. So Hill, I'm so glad that you're there. But Hill, you were making a really great point. I want to make sure you get a chance to pick it up. Your Wi-Fi went out a little bit talking about Flint. I knew where you're going when you're talking about they paid the highest amount in water bills, and then you went out. I just want you to close that loop out. That's a very important point that you were making.
Yeah. So the people that are billing the people in Flint are the people that they put into office, right? And so the people you put into office in your local community control almost everything you do. And the money that you pay in as a taxpayer or a water bill, those are the people that are dictating how much you're paying. It's not some wizard somewhere else. It's the people that are on the ballot. And we as a community have to know our power. We can control every election across the country, period, if we turned out in crazy numbers. And we as brothers got to understand, sisters are leading. They are beating us in terms of voter turnout. Black men need to lead.
So I'm glad that's why I really wanted you to point that out, because that was such a salient point that you were making about how local elections matter, right? And how local elections matter, and that can impact your day-to-day that you're making. I want to come to you, Spike, and then I'm going to take it back to you, Michael Smith. So be ready to be at bat, right? So Spike, I want to talk about, Hill is talking about, power galvanizing. I'm just thinking about a scene that to me was the most powerful scene of all your incredible films that you ever created. And since we're talking about Michigan, I'm talking about Malcolm X over it, who was born in the state of Michigan. And there's a scene in that part where you have Denzel Washington just does that and everyone moves. Swear to God, I've always wanted to do that in front of Spike Lee, ladies and gentlemen. That was all personal. To do that. That to me is the most powerful moments in cinema to me when it comes to that. But that was a different.
And you know what the line was? The late Peter Boyle, his line was, "That's too much power for one man to have."
Brother, I was just going there. Spike,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but let's talk about that though, right? Because how should we think about that phrase now, right? And not so much in terms of one man, one person, but I feel like now we as a Black community sometimes, right, we keep having this narrative of we need one of our celebrities to step up and do something. We need one of our athletes to step up and do something. This isn't a conversation to talk about certain individuals, but there's a lot of individuals right now who are carrying a mantle of information that one could say is not the time and the place for right now, but people are following, right? How should we be thinking about, should we be placing the Black community, in particular I'm talking to, our hopes and dreams on one influencer, like one celebrity, right? One basketball player, right? One media personality. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think history has shown us anytime there's one, they get assassinated. They get assassinated because they're trying to bring people into the light and they want to keep us in the darkness. So sometimes it might be better we just have one person. The more people have, the harder it is to kill them all. So, and another thing I like to say, and I say this with all due respect, peace and love, but are we to expect that singers and dancers and musicians athletes to lead us? I mean, that's I think that's a valid question. Not to say they can't participate, but I mean, everybody has. Here's the thing: everybody has their role. You know, sometimes you guys stay in your lane and do what you can in your lane of your expertise. And the masses often put a burden on our athletes, entertainers, and ask them to do stuff that they're not equipped to do. So, I mean, that's who I see it.
Yeah, those are really great points to bring to conversation. Michael Smith, I see you nodding, and I'm coming to you now because you and I, we different places and outlets, but at the same time, we're able to have a conversation with the average of everyday American, those who tune in to sports radio, those who tune in to sports program that you're a part of, individuals who tune in and to me on Sirius XM, I get the chance to call in, and a lot of questions and callers I get is they keep asking me to tell them how to think, to tell them how to vote, right? And which policies should their positions to be on. And Michael Smith, I take that microphone and behind the camera with so much regard and making sure I honor that and to make sure I'm not giving misinformation and to make sure I'm not misleading, right? Because I think that's the reason why we've gotten to the situation we have in our Black community, because we keep relying on people like myself and you to tell us what to do. And so therefore we haven't educated ourselves on just the basics so we can be an informed citizens so that we can have a huge impact on our democracy. Talk to me about your thoughts on that dynamic, right? In terms of like our callers, our supporters, people maybe hitting you up on Twitter in the DM, asking you questions. What is your position and take on that? And then audience, I'm gonna go to solutions. I don't want this to be just problems and condemnation, but I wanna go to solutions too as well.
So I'll make this quick then. One, it's funny you guys were talking about Malcolm in particular, because Malcolm, as you guys know, spoke to that very thing, that dynamic, that phenomenon of athletes and entertainers as leaders of a race of people is specific and almost exclusive to Black people. You know, like our athletes and entertainers carry that burden more than they do in the white community and others. So it's apropos that you guys were, talking about that issue. I think honestly, man, it's just a matter of remaining informed and engaged, and as they say, keeping that same energy, and really making a determination that this is not going to be a one-off. Even right now, I mean, we're trying to activate the vote for November 3rd, or before then, if you can. But that's when the work is just starting. Like taking this election is just really. That's just opening the door for us to start to do the collective work that it's going to take to clean up this mess of the last 4 years. Because I will give Agent Orange credit for one thing. That dude, he put a lot of dysfunction into one term. He managed to squeeze every amount of dysfunction possible into one term. I mean, I'm being facetious when I say I'm giving him credit. It's unbelievable how much damage he's done in 4 years. And so it's really going to take a consistent and persistent engagement, when it comes to not only casting our vote, but then holding those elected officials accountable and staying engaged. And to your point, Mike, informed about the issues. And I'll just focus on information for a second. Part of their concerted effort of voter suppression is disinformation and therefore voter depression. They're counting on us feeling apathetic, counting on us consuming misinformation on social media. There are people, as you guys probably noticed, there are Russian bots on social media posing as Black people, perpetuating misinformation and myths about the Democratic Party, about the Biden-Harris ticket and the Biden-Harris plan. There are plants whose very purpose is to dissuade us from voting. So it's not just the courts, it's not just a single ballot box in a county of millions of people. It's not just fooling with the Postal Service. There are people trying to just simply depress our vote and discourage us from consuming and prevent us from consuming the right information for us to make an informed decision. But like I said, there really is no decision here. It could not be more obvious how this has to go as we've all laid out.
So Hill, thank you, Michael. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to piggyback off that real quick because it relates to what Spike said. They used to have to shoot us to assassinate us, but now they don't have to do that. What they do now is they bring technology, bots, misinformation, and they try to discredit you and cancel you. You know, listen, at the end of the day, Spike knows this. I know it. Whoever, if you post something and you have a certain past a certain number of followers on social media, within 4 seconds, something that is completely insulting and antithetical pops up because they just want to get you embroiled in a conversation and get other people to lob on and cancel you and cancel your opinion, discourage you from speaking out. It's happened to me countless times. And you say, where's this coming from? Whoa, damn. Okay. And so here's the deal. They can cancel you and basically assassinate your character, or assassinate your relevance online, which carries over to people getting depressed. Like, damn, I used to like Harper. He wrote those books, but now clearly everybody, you know, he's talking some crazy shit or whatever. So damn, I'm, you know, these legends, Spike Lee, man, he was the dude, but now, damn, you know, and it's all lies. It's all fake lies and creation. And it, you know, it happens time and time again. And I just wanted to say that because you got to know that that's really what's going on.
Well, since you're warm, Hill, I want to come to you with this. And my audience who knows me knows I'm very clear about being solution oriented. We've talked so far about what's at stake. We've talked about, you know, what President Trump has done, the policies that he stands on for Black Americans. We dispelled that in the beginning. We talked about what's at stake. We talked about why it's important for Black men to vote. But I want the audience and those who know me, I advocate for Black men. And we have the position right now to bring Black men's issues to the forefront of this conversation. We have the chance to voice the concerns of our friends, our brothers, our fraternity brothers, our homies, our alma mater folk, in places that they can't. The campaign is watching, the campaign is listening. We literally have Trey Baker on the Zoom right now with us. We've told Black men what's at stake and why they should go to the polls. A lot of Black men feel like though they haven't been positioned in this campaign. A lot of Black men feel like the only time Black issues come up is around criminality. That's the only time we get brought up is around criminal justice reform. The only time we get brought up on any debate stage is when it comes literally to just criminal justice. When it comes to all the Black men and women, but this is for Black men, when all the Black men that got shot and murdered, we don't hear anything else. And I want to be honest, that's why a lot of Black men are frustrated with politics. That's why a lot of Black men doesn't know why their vote will count or matter because they don't feel or see them being heard or talked to. And I'm here not to talk about the why that is and why that isn't. But we have the chance now to bring those Black men that we've heard communicate that. We know the issues that are impacting Black men on a day-to-day basis. We have the chance to bring that into the forefront. And we have the chance to tell the campaign what solutions we would like to see discussed and brought about on behalf of Black men. So I'm gonna ask that of you, Michael Smith. I'm gonna ask that of you too, Spike Lee, as we begin to close out this conversation. Hill, I know you may have can you just talk about some of the things that you would like to see the campaign and also to just politics in general, talk about Black men as solutions and how should we be thought about around policy, not just about criminal justice?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope my Wi-Fi holds up this. All the things you mentioned, these things are inextricably linked, right? And so you know, what I want to see happen, I want to see complete bail reform. We have to get rid of the bail system across the country, period, right? And it can start in the federal system and it'll trickle down to the state system. We should see a 50% reduction in our inmate population. The fact that we have 2.2 million inmates across in this country, plus another 6.87 million who are in probation or parole. 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's inmates, is ridiculous. And Black and brown people, if you add us together, we make up a significant majority of that. And then, but you have to understand, so all of the economic and job stuff is related to all of these other issues that we must talk about. So we absolutely have to have economic reform and job incentives for hiring brothers and retraining brothers in our communities, right? Brothers are involved in certain activity because they need to make money. And if they had other better legitimate options, they would be participating in that. Part of that is private sector incentives, and part of that is government work, right? And right now there's an infrastructure problem in this country. There are so many Black and brown brothers out there that could be hired to solve those issues, and we could do that and have to take a lead. We as Black men, as soon as we elect Biden and Harris, we have to hold them accountable aggressively. We can't wait. We have to hold them accountable from day one to talk about who they're appointing and who's getting these high-level appointments. And we have to hold them accountable, those appointees accountable, because you got to remember, Biden and Harris aren't going to be the ones deciding who's getting this job or that job, but there are people that they're appointing that will decide who's giving people this job, where they're controlling budgets and where that allocation goes. And if we hold their feet to the fire and use a bully platform, like we've seen the playbook we've seen work already by somebody else, we can do that to get the results we want. But we got to elect them first to hold their feet to the fire.
Spike Lee, I saw you had your finger up.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer this a different way.
Sure.
I've been married 26 years to my wife, Tanya Lewis Lee. The best thing ever happened to me. And I think that if the brothers listen to their wives, I know the brother's gonna kill me, because I'm talking about from personal experience. Listen to our wives, our lady friends, our mothers. They're not gonna steer us wrong. I'm telling you, so many times Tanya has said, Spike, I'm like, I don't want to hear it. And then I'm like, yeah, you were right. You were right. You were right. You were right. And I think that sometimes, and I'm talking for me personally, that you have to understand that our wives, our lady friends, our mothers, they're gonna give us stuff we might not don't want to hear, but it comes from a place of love. It comes from you don't want to hear it, but you gotta listen.
Spike,
like if I was a 5%er, I would say the earths. The earths got that knowledge.
You taking them to New York, Spike. You taking them to New York, baby.
Because they say,
Spike,
my brother, you have to listen to the earths. That's all I gotta say.
That's amazing. Spike, please tell Tanya I said hello.
I will.
Spike's wife, Tanya Lewis, is absolutely amazing and incredible artist in her own right, incredible producer in her own right. She and I was always on the White House Christmas circuit together in the same group of categories. So please tell her I said hello.
And I learned to listen.
Yeah.
And I can steer us wrong.
No, and Tanya's not going to do that to you, Spike.
Yeah.
Michael Smith, talk to us a little about, with the understanding that Spike Lee says, I also too want to qualify this statement, advocating for Black men, I always have to put this in my writing, advocating for Black men does not take away the advocacy for others, for Black women. It doesn't take away the advocacy for other marginalized communities. It's okay, Black men, to stand firm on Black men and to advocate for Black men, and does not take away from other groups. Black women, we thank you for being the backbone of the Democratic Party.
We love you. We love you.
This is the barbershop talk, and I'll take the hits. I'm used to taking the hits all the time, but I'll take the hits for the three brothers here on the room. Sometimes we do just have to stand firm and just isolate and just stick to Black men, because we have certain issues that need to be addressed and talked to that can only be addressed from a Black man's perspective, and only certain policies can help change that, a better outcome from the Black man, so that the next debate, when you have over 17, 20 Democratic candidates on the stage, we won't only be talked about when it comes to criminal justice. Absolutely. Michael Smith, that pissed me off so bad, my brother. The number of primary debates that I saw and that Black men was never brought up until about criminal justice. And so this is personal for me, Michael Smith. This is why I'm leading into this. So Michael Smith, please just talk to us a little bit about your thoughts about that and solutions, and what you want to see Biden Harris think about for solutions, and how they should be thinking about the 360 Black men.
No, I feel you. I mean, even in the last debate, I mean, the only question was around the talk. That was the only question about race relations was the talk when it comes to encounter police. So I feel your frustration. I guess I'll to kind of bring everybody in, I guess I'll just say the Black family, and we've talked ad nauseum so far, which is great, about, we are more we're advocating for more than just criminal justice, because we're obviously more, than people who have criminal records. You know what I mean? I mean, God bless those that do it and their reform. But I mean, that's our experience. You said it, 360 is so much more than just our encounters with law enforcement. And to that end, I would focus on the wealth gap. I'll quote James Brown. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up a door and I'll get it myself. We're not looking for handouts. We're looking for the doors to be open and for the opportunities for us to. We're used to playing from behind. Going back to sports, we're used to playing from behind. All right, just allow us the opportunities. Give us the opportunities to create generational wealth, not just to get a job, but to create the same general wealth or close to it. Generational wealth. I beg your pardon. Generational wealth or close to it that white folks have had since this country's inception and since they built this country on the backs of slaves, and so whether it's home ownership, whether it's small businesses, whether it's more diversity at the very top of corporations that shouted Black Lives Matter from the rooftops, but Black careers, not so much. Like let's try to close this wealth gap as best we can and create opportunities for Black men to be the husbands and the fathers and the providers that we were created to be and that we long to be for our wives and for our children.
And for real quick, if I could just get this in real quick, I'm glad you brought up corporations, because we need to start looking these corporations, their board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
The diversity has to start from the top. And you go to the Fortune 500 one by one and see who's on the board. See if there are any people of color there. They talk all that smack, but you look at their board, it's lily white.
Exactly.
You got to be in the room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Spike, I wasn't even about to go here, right? But listen, Spike Lee, Hill Harper, Michael Smith, when I told you the campaign was watching us, the campaign was paying attention, the campaign is listening. I've already gotten a few texts already. Shout out to you, Ashley Allison. Love you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Ashley, I know that you being on the campaign, everything that we're talking about is going to be addressed. You are brilliant. You are smart. You are a woman of your word. You are a woman of your character and value. So I know you would take what we're saying and bring it forward to the campaign. Kareem Pierre-Jean, I know you as a chief of staff for vice president candidate, Senator Kamala Harris. I know you're a woman of your word. I know you would take everything that we're talking about and you will bring it to Senator Kamala Harris if she's elected to vice president of the United States of America. So I want to keep doubling down on where we are with solutions, because Michael Smith and Hill Harper, you both brought up Michael Smith, generational wealth. Hill Harper, you brought up entrepreneurship. Let's talk about the SBA really quickly. Open that up more. Create opportunities for access to capital so that when Blacks do get the chance to get the bids, that we have the access to capital so that we can have the loans that we need in order to fulfill the job that we get for the RFP that we go for. Spike, you're mentioning corporations and boards, and you did too right now, Michael Smith. I got to be honest with you, gentlemen. I was bothered. I'm not going to say the institution that he works for, but there's a CEO for a major financial institution firm. When he came back from Davos, when he's talking about diversity of corporate boards, and we all know, folks, for those of you not familiar, that is the pinnacle of dream jobs of corporate America. You get $250 to go to 4 meetings per year, and you get a chance to shape corporations. He said that we need to include more women when it comes to corporation diversities. What triggered me, Michael Smith and Spike Lee, was that we know what that means. That means white women, right? And so that even goes towards Black women. But then where's Black men even when it comes down to that? That's like the third ring when it comes to when you're playing that dynamic of identity politics and demographics. And so those are just things that we have to be mindful of. And Michael Smith, those are things that we can't be afraid to talk about. We can't be afraid. And Spike Lee Michael Smith has given us the blueprint of not being afraid to go there. Spike Lee has, ladies and gentlemen, given us the blueprint to write films that weren't popular. Looking back at Spike's canon now, we can say, oh yeah, those films make sense. We're not thinking about he was making those. Spike was making these
Hated
movies in the
bamboo.
80s and in the 90s when it wasn't cool to be an activist, when it wasn't cool to make millions of dollars off of activism, right? Spike was there showing us the blueprint of how to go into the uncomfortable comfortably. And so, Michael Smith, you and I have to take that blueprint from Spike Lee and continue to have these uncomfortable conversations that are difficult and that are nuanced. But you and I are in privileged positions that we're in front of cameras, we're behind microphones to make sure we advocate for Black men in ways that they can't do for themselves. That is our responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Please give a virtual round of applause to our amazing panelists, Mr. Dynamic, legendary, iconic Spike Lee. Also to Spike Lee's wife, Tanya, just because I love Tanya. And also to Michael Smith. Hill Harper is clearly his Wi-Fi went out. Shout out to that brother for pulling over to the side of the road because that's how much it counts and it matters now. So at this time, I'm just going to bring back our incredible leader, Trey Baker, who was unafraid to book me as a moderator because he knew that these were things that I was going to talk about. I don't bite my tongue. And so thank you, Trey Baker, for allowing us this conversation to go forward the way that it is, for being a great leader for African Americans, in particular for Black men, and for helping to curate these shops. I know this is our last one, and you have done an incredible job, my brother, and it couldn't have been easy. Standing on the square of Black men is not easy to do in this space.
I appreciate it, brother, and I just want to thank y'all. This was an incredible conversation. From I'm from Mississippi. They say from the rooter to the tutor around here. So from the beginning to the end, y'all brought it, everybody. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. And y'all, this is the difference. We're sitting here having conversations with brothers, talking about the issues, talking about how a Biden-Harris administration is going to knock it down once the administration comes to life. On the other side, they got brothers crowd surfing in Atlanta in the middle of a pandemic. They got other brothers posing for photo ops. And so we can't get bamboozled, for a Spike Lee reference. We can't get bamboozled by this because they put out something. Exactly. They put out something called a platinum plan. My God, they could have called it bling bling, for God's sakes. Like, we have to get serious. This is a time for us to just sober up, tell our brothers it's time to come along. Joe Biden has put out a plan for Black America that's 6 points. It covers creation of wealth. It covers an economic agenda. It covers healthcare. It covers education. $70 billion to HBCUs, like that little school nobody knows called Morehouse. It covers environmental justice. It covers all of these things, voting rights, and putting those protections back into place. So we're talking about real solutions for our community. $150 billion worth of investment in CDFIs and Black-owned banks. We're talking about even servicing Black farmers, thinking about the rural. 30% of Black folks live in rural areas, live in Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana. And so actually having something for debt relief for Black farmers, actually having something for access to wealth for Black farmers. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are thinking about us and thinking about our community. And so we want to continue to have these conversations. We're going to curate this somehow because we've had some wonderful conversations. I think we need to curate it and take it out to the people. The final thing I'll say is this. We need people to get involved. We need you to text AFAM, that's AFAM, to 30330. That's how you get on my email list, and you get all the information. You find out about things like Shop Talk. We need you to go to iwillvote.com. You go to iwillvote.com. You will learn about your voting precinct. You'll learn if your registration is accessible, if it's right, if everything is good. You'll know the dates that you can early vote. We need people to go out and vote right now. In so many states, voting is already done or already starting. So you can go out and vote right now in your North Carolinas and your Virginias. You can continue to go out and vote all over the country. And so we need you to do that right now. And finally, make a plan to go vote. Are you going to take 2 friends? Are you going to take 5 friends? Are you going to vote absentee like I did here in Mississippi because I'm going to be on the road when the day comes? So we have to move forward. We have to continue to have these conversations. Mike Muse, my good brother, I usually turn back to you to close us out, but I would be remiss if I didn't turn it over to the mayor of the barbershop to close us out this time, if that's all right with you, brother.
Deference, baby. Please.
Let's turn it over to Spike Lee to close us out.
I want to thank everyone, and I say blessings, peace and love. We all know somebody's no longer here because of that murderous guy. People with him with Agent Orange, they have blood in their hands. Families can be torn apart forever because of how their life was treated, how people put money over human life, how people get on bended knee before the altar of the almighty dollar. So I always have my 3 S's. We can't go for the skullduggery, can't go for the subterfuge, and can't go for the shenanigans. I got skullduggery from Mike Tyson though. The 3 S's, they'll get you every time if you're sleeping. And we can't afford to be, we can't sleep on this one. Like Brain Mac used to say, drinking coffee, eating no dose. We gotta be wide awake.
Word.
Wide awake, people. Peace and love. Peace and love.